Now, in my neck of the woods, we get excited for spring, just spring, because we finally want to be warm. But in Coral Gables, the weather's beautiful all the time. So you got to attach football to spring, and then people get excited for Miami spring football. We got Cam Underwood on the line from State of the U. We've got a Miami doubleheader tonight, capped off by Cam and his analysis. So jump on in, bring your comments, your questions, your debate topics for Cam and myself as we talk Canes as they've hit the practice field. Cam, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. I like hitting cleanup, but who hit leadoff today?
A little wholesome one at 4:30.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah, so, doing that. So, you had Brad Tejeda in. He's very good also on Saturday and whatnot. So, doing big things, feeling a little expendable around here, but, good to be back and everything.
Not expendable in way, shape, or form. Your war is still extremely high.
Hey, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I think everyone would certainly back me up on that. So again, jump in the live chat. Keep into consideration that the channel and this particular show is successful based on your individual contributions. But bring your comments. We finally got some football to talk about, at least reports of football being played there. Of course, we know that it is being played, but your thoughts about what we've heard. It's only been a couple days, but in regards to what you've heard, because I'm certainly going to follow up with a few things that I've seen online.
Yeah, man. Basically, you just work in the off season. That's when growth really happens. It's not on game day. And, you do have those guys who are gamers and they turn it on when the lights are on. But, the work that you do when nobody's watching, that's the work that really affects what happens on the field. Later, if you've ever done anything that's performative, like I said, I used to be a choir director and everything. Yeah, being on stage is great, but, you've got to put in that time in that lab beforehand to really grow. And I think that we're seeing that or having reports of that from everybody. There are lots of guys at the University of Miami going through Coach Feely. I forget his first name now, but the weight program and everything, really transforming players' bodies. You have guys gaining weight. Mike Harley played last season at around 170. He's up to 183, 185 ish. You got guys like Corey Flagg Jr., your linebacker wearing number 11, who was 240 pounds and, 18 to 20% body fat, a little chunky. And, in my current body composition, I understand how that goes, brother. But looking slim and trim and in shape, down in the mid-teens in terms of body fat. He's dropped some of that baby weight and everything, and really looking slim and trim. Got other guys. DJ Ivy just continues to look like a monster. Jafari Harvey has gained, 12, 13 pounds and is at 4% body fat or something just ridiculous and things like that. So you just really are starting to see, and, with guys getting on the field, there's pictures and video. So you're really seeing them in their uniforms, in pads and things, and they look different. Now, we'll see, because, of course, every spring, everybody's in the best shape of their life. They're the strongest they've ever been. They're the leanest they've ever been. All these kind of things that we see, over off seasons in pro sports and things like that. But seeing that bodies are changing in that kind of a way is a positive. Because, there were some guys who needed to reshape their bodies a little bit. And we're seeing those kind of things happen. So that's the number one thing for me. Also, just, seeing the opportunities that there are for guys to step up on the field. Obviously, we're only 3 days in, so that's the 2 days of helmets only with shorts and T-shirts or shirts and jerseys. Shorts and jerseys, sorry. And then 1 day of pads, which was today, because you had to have the 2-day acclimation period. So we're not really getting too far down the line, but, we are seeing some guys, I think, maybe take some strides forward, and just working with their opportunities. So, I know that we're probably going to talk about them in specific, but those are the kind of things that are really standing out. And again, the other thing, the biggest move, one of the biggest moves for this program in the offseason was Manny Diaz taking the keys back on defense. And we've already had players talk about him being the defensive coordinator again, calling the defense and things like that, which, hey, look, if that's what you had to do to get the defense where it needs to be, then that's what you had to do. And I think that we're already seeing positive results from that, and we just need to keep that forward. Yeah, Miami is back, George. Thanks.
I am going to go, Cam, the coaching route before we go the player route, because I was looking at something on 247 Sports where I believe two Miami defensive players in particular were shouting the praises of Bob Shoop and his work as a defensive analyst.
Yeah. I mean, that's just a guy you add with 30 years of coaching experience. You know, he's seen the things that you're going to see. He's done the things that hopefully you're going to be able to do. And the wisdom of age and experience is able to inform those who just don't have those things necessarily. So, you know, it's just, you know, when you're talking about, just schemes and, you know, examples and, you know, scenarios and things like that, you know, like Shoop has been there and coached it. You know, whether it was, you know, himself as a defensive coordinator or position coach, just around the various programs and staffs, like he's been there, you know, and I mean, along with Todd Stroud, who's in an advisory position now, those are the guys who are the most veteran coaches. So yeah, you just have a guy who knows a lot and has done, you know, excellent job at many institutions. You know his name because of his prior working history. And then he's just a guy that you can go to and say, hey, you know, like we're looking at this, and you can talk schematically too. You know, if you're a defensive back, like, you know, a couple of these guys are talking about, hey, you know, they're trying to run this, you know, this route combo, and we're in this coverage, and, you know, I don't know. And then it's, oh, well, back in 1994, I was coaching against and their coach did something like that. And so we coached our players to look and see for this key and thing. So he has those examples to pull from. You know, again, like I said, I was a teacher before. And my first year teaching was survival. And I didn't even have a bag to put any tricks in. And that was the first thing. I had to knit this bag for these metaphorical tricks to teach, because you're not, I mean, you might be able to teach it the one way and people might get it, but there's going to be other ways. And if the way that you're doing it doesn't work, you don't have anything to fall back on. Bob Shoop has a warehouse full of bags and tricks. So he can go to a specific thing. It looks like, you know, something out of Minority Report or the Great Library from Game of Thrones. He can go and find the exact game, the exact play, the exact coach, the exact everything, and use that history and knowledge and wisdom to inform these players. And that is such a great benefit because of, again, just demonstrated performance. And the other thing that he has over the course of a long career, in addition to these successes, are the failures, which will help inform and hopefully move forward. Because it's like, okay, well, I tried to do this and thought it was going to work, but it didn't. So if you are thinking, hey, this would be the solution, or this would be the key that I'm going to read, or this is going to be the key thing that I'm going to do to combat whatever the offense is doing, I tried that and it didn't work. So let me save you that work and point you in a new direction. Again, it's an invaluable resource. And I think that he's already paid dividends for the staff. And, you know, hopefully that will, again, continue to pay dividends on the field in the spring. So we have these guys who are improving their performance and knowledge now to then also improve their performance and knowledge moving further forward when the lights are on in the fall.
As opposed to, as you outlined, coaching in your first year, your first season, your first experience as a coach or instructor or teacher, then you are coaching by the book. Thus the cliche, coaching by the book. That's all you got is the book.
Right.
You got the book and you got your experience, your personal experience, and that's it to draw from. And then if you're really good, then you grab that bag, as Cam mentioned, and then you start to say, oh, yeah, that's right. I had to deal with that 3 months ago. And that kid is similar to him. So,
right. I mean, exactly. Oh, they're running smash against cover 3. And it was okay. But then we tried to, okay, what if we did? All right, so we're just going to have that. So then the next time they're running smash against cover, but they're going to try to run mesh against man, but they're always going to do that. But then if we go instead of 4-3, we have the 4-2-5 with the striker, and we have this. And then we kind of bring the guy down as a robber in that close area for the crossers for the mesh. And it's just one of those things where you just start adding, so you have more answers because the offense is always going to give you questions. for your defense. If you're going to run something, we're going to try to have something that beats that man beater, zone beater, whatever that is. And then you build in these other things. This is where zone blitzes came from. You know what I mean? Where you're covering your blitzing and you're thinking man to man because, okay, cool, I'm going to have a hot read and this is going to be open. But then we're going to put a guy in a short zone where you're going to look for that hot read and things like that. So it's just, again, all of that building that library of ideas and solutions. And Bob Shoop has a lot of those. And, like I said, I think it's already helping guys, and I think that it's going to continue to help as long as it's been here or going to be here.
All right, Chug Mo Beer. Hello, Mark and Cam. Great to catch you twice today. Mark, let's go Canes. Smash the like button. You family. Chug Mo Beer, appreciate the Super Chat contribution as always, and you're always here supporting us, so we appreciate that. I've got my recruiting rules around here somewhere, and I think somewhere along the list it says something about signing a quarterback.
At the top.
At the top. That's at the very top.
Number one, it is the most foundational roster building, talent acquisition strategy or idea that I believe. Yes, number one for me. Always has been.
So this would qualify, especially when it's a 4-star quarterback in Ja'Cory Brown out of Georgia, who has announced that on March 26th, he will make his commitment known. He combined for 30 touchdowns as a junior and has a buddy coming along with him.
Yeah, so Ja'Cory Brown, in the world of recruiting, he's a 4-star quarterback. He's top 5 dual threat, I want to say, 6'3", 6'4", 200 pounds, is a live arm and very high potential. Very good performance already. Like we've seen from him, 30 touchdowns in the Georgia high school football season as a junior, as a sophomore. Really played very, very well. I think that's the team that blew out Miami Central when they went up there to Valdosta Lowndes to play him. And I remember seeing that because there was no live stream for that game, and I wasn't driving up to Georgia for that one. But I just kept seeing the updates come down the timeline. And I was like, Lowndes 35, Central 7? And this is the last Central State Championship team. Not the one this year that didn't make it, the last one that did win. So I'm like, whoa, what? And it was like 21-0, 35-7, 42-10. And I was just like, what is going on? And what was going on was Ja'Cory Brown got off. I mean, in a big, nasty kind of a way. And this is a kid who can play, man. He's going to come down this weekend for unofficial visit. It's actually not an unofficial visit, excuse me. It is a personal trip to South Florida, adding in a self-guided tour of the University of Miami campus, along with Isaiah Bond, who is another high school football player, a slash kind of athlete, wide receiver, cornerback, but I believe Miami is looking at him at offense for this year. So those two are coming down to South Florida together, and then they're going to go around and catch the scene and everything because the recruiting dead period is ongoing. So it's not an official visit in connection with Miami recruiting. But, I mean, let's put 2 and 2 together. This kid who is looking to make a commitment in 8 days is coming to the area and taking a self-guided tour. And I'm sure that the University of Miami is, or the athletic department might have some ideas and tips and hints of some places on campus that he might want to go see. Maybe you go check out the Learning Center. Maybe you go check out the Memorial Building. Maybe you go over and you check out the University Village or the new on-campus apartment area that's on the side of the lake. Maybe you go to the University Center. Maybe you go by the new Shalala Student Center and check those things out. And you go around. Yes, I do for that analogy. It's a good one, though. It works. Trust me. I only use it because it fits, Raj. But yeah, so Ja'Cory Brown's going to come down and look around and things like that. And so is Isaiah Bond. And I'm very strong of the opinion that both of those guys are going to commit to the University of Miami, leading with Ja'Cory Brown next week, Friday, on the 26th, 8 days time from now when we're recording this. So, it will be fulfilling the number 1 recruiting rule. And again, if you have not read those, it's up on the front of State of the U still, because it's one of the best things I've ever written, with ideas and input from a lot of guys in the world of recruiting that Bud Elliott, Andrew Ivins, Michael Felder, Tyler Donahue, even other local guys that you read, David Furones, and a couple other. I think I talked to like 8 or 10 people from that. So it's not just my ideas. I connected with a lot of professionals in the industry, and I really think that. I put them together in order, but I was always saying that recruiting rule number 1 is you have to have a quarterback. And you do because you're, number one, throwing numbers at the problem, and number two, you're planning for the future, because especially at the collegiate level, it's, guys are going to leave. They're going to exhaust their eligibility, and what's going to happen next? What is going to happen next is informed by who you have on the roster, and by having more players and better players on the roster, you then have the ability to go to one guy or another guy if it doesn't work out, or another guy if that doesn't work out. So you have to have a quarterback every year, and you want to have the best quarterbacks that you can. So you have Tyler Van Dyke from 2 years ago, who is quarterback number one during spring because De'Aaron King is out. And Jake Garcia had a minor foot thing that he was working through, so he's a little limited his first 2 days. And Tyler Van Dyke is looking real good. Connecticut Player of the Year in high school. Took his prep school, Suffield Academy, to a state championship for the first time ever. Was the high school Pitcher of the Year as a junior, throwing 93, 94 off the hill with an 11-0 record with a microscopic ERA as well. So that speaks more to his gamesmanship and his arm talent. And he's just continuing to showcase both of those things at the University of Miami now. He's a 4-star recruit. You then supersede that. You recruit over that, which is one of the other recruiting rules of stacking elite talent. So you have Tyler Van Dyke, who you recruit. Then you bring in Jake Garcia, who's moved all over the country and everything. He played in Georgia last year. And he was an even higher rated 4-star recruit at quarterback. He's a kid with an elite arm and who's played and succeeded in multiple high schools because he moved around a lot. But I think, 5 high schools in 4 years type thing, because he was at Lincoln, then he went to Narbonne, then he went to somewhere else, then he went to Valdosta, and then was ruled ineligible in Valdosta, then he went to Grayson up in Loganville and was magically eligible in the middle of his senior season. Whatever. But the point stands that he's another guy with incredible talent. So you have those two, and then you add in a Ja'Cory Brown, and then you have a guy in Peyton Matoka, who was the small schools or co-small schools Player of the Year in Houston for small prep schools and things like that, along with Garrett Gilbert, who was recruited by Texas but ended up at Arizona and everything. And he's super athletic for the position. I don't necessarily think that he fits in Miami's long-term plans at quarterback, but he's maybe playing a little bit over the ceiling that I thought he had. So if you want to add him in the year before, Tyler Van Dyke as well, he was a 3-star kind of a guy, maybe a program player. But again, if he's super athletic and he was playing safety when Miami was down some players in practice last year, Peyton Matoka was. So that speaks to his athleticism to be able to play safety and fit in and not to be a placeholder like they could have put a tackling dummy out there. But he's actually moving around in that kind of a way because he has that kind of athleticism. Then you want to add him to the conversation as well. Now you have 4 guys in 4 consecutive years with athleticism and talent. So you have 3 elite blue chip guys, and then Matoka, who was very productive in high school and incredibly athletic, and maybe you're coaching him up where you can tap into some of that and bring him up to the performance level of these other guys. That's where you want to be as a program. So you have Van Dyke, you have Garcia, you're probably going to add Ja'Cory Brown, and then if you're coaching up Peyton Matoka, who's the best athlete of those guys at the position, that's a really strong position for Miami's quarterbacks to be in. So, adding a guy with maybe a medium floor, but a really high ceiling, like a Ja'Cory Brown, would be really good. And I think that this is the time to take a kind of high-risk, high-reward player, because you have guys in front of him like Tyler Van Dyke, like a Jake Garcia, where if it doesn't 100% come together for Ja'Cory Brown, and I'm not hoping that, I hope that it does, but if it doesn't all the way come together, you can then back that up with another guy who's maybe more of a kind of middle of the road but still blue chip prospect next year. And then you have that buffer. So, okay, if this doesn't work 3 and 4 years down the line, I got another guy after him who's a blue chip. I got another guy after him. And then if we're not able to develop him fully, then we're okay. Think like, that's not my phone, by the way. I was just dancing to it. No, it's all good.
It's actually the viewers bad because that was on my call-in line.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Who in the world's calling us?
I don't know.
Have to shut that off.
But I not to touch a personal subject, but think about N'Kosi Perry, who didn't necessarily become the player here at Miami that lots of us, myself mainly, and others, thought that he could have been. And you have guys behind him to fill that void, like a Jaron Williams, and then you get a transfer in from De'Aaron King and things like that. So I think that something like that could be potentially possible. But again, I would be very excited about the prospect of adding Ja'Cory Brown to the quarterback room and how that would help raise the bar for talent over there for the University of Miami Hurricanes.
I'm going to clean up some metrics on these two prospects, also get to some super chats. I got a follow-up from Cam. This is your opportunity, everyone. You basically, when it comes right down to it, produce the show. So if you leave your comments, your questions, your debate topics, anything you want Cam and or myself to discuss and to answer, we will. So again, you guys produce the show. Ja'Cory Brown, 5th rated dual threat quarterback in the country, 20th rated player in Georgia. And where we stand on Georgia football now, I think this is pretty significant. Yeah. Florida and Texas battle at number 1, and California used to be in that mix. 40% of the top 300 players come from those 3 states, but California is starting to drop and Georgia's starting to elevate to the point where I looked at, hopefully Cam's going to come right back with us, between 4 and 5 stars. I looked at this the other day. Texas and Florida were basically neck and neck in 4 and 5 stars. They both had about 55 for the next class. California had dropped down to about 35, and Georgia was pushing them. Yeah. And the talent in Georgia. So if you're a top 20 player in Georgia, that's becoming rarefied air. And he's a top 200 player in the nation. His buddy Isaiah Bond is the 58th rated athlete in the country, according to the composite. Now, 247 Sports likes him a lot more. 32nd rated athlete. They've got him as the 33rd rated player in Georgia.
Yeah.
The 247, even though the composite has him down at 62nd. So that lets you know what Rivals and ESPN may think of him.
Right. And he did have a strong junior season, did Isaiah Bond and everything. And, the athlete is kind of the catch-all position, but like I said, I believe Miami's looking at him to play offense here. And that would be a solid get for me.
Also want to remind everyone that we've got free masks. So you can get a college football mask. We've got about 35 teams. Miami, of course, on the board for most of the people that would be interested here. So go to I'll put up a banner at some point, but I want to get through these super chats and questions. voiceofcollegefootball.com, where it says register for free. You know what that means? You register for free, and then you get your free mask when we send you the coupon code, and you get 20% off your first purchase. There's a whole store of college football gear there, and you also get thrown into a raffle for a $25 gift card. So again, free mask. Miami, I would think, would be the trend here. But we've got about 35 teams there, voiceofcollegefootball.com. Ronan, good to see you, buddy. Hurricanes live helping cure post St. Patrick's Day blues. Head on over and join Mark on Patreon. Appreciate that, Ronan. Keep up the great work, guys. Go Canes. Also, we've got a few other ones in here that are just merely support, which we appreciate, even if you don't have a question. Thank you so much, Mr. Prime. 3773. Go Canes. Let's go, Mark.
Let's go, Mark.
Let's go, Mark. I just read them. Oh, when they come from the Florida State, so Phil is bucking a trend here because I've told Cam this a number of times because I'm sure he stays far, far away from my Florida State live shows, but we get more financial support on the Florida State shows from Miami viewers. It's not even close. Okay. So thank you so much, Phil. We appreciate a strong contribution there. Thank you so much there. And again, we do know that Miami won a bowl game against West Virginia back in 2016.
Yeah.
And then before that, it was Nevada, correct?
Yeah.
What
now
bowl
defunct Micron PC Bowl out in Boise, Idaho, I believe that was. I think that was the one. Micron PC Bowl was the one that we won against Nevada.
Wasn't the Micron PC Bowl in Arizona? And it was always the either famous Idaho Potato Bowl, and there's another one up in Boise. They named it something else. I'll have to look that up.
Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, it's crazy. But just lost 10 out of 11 bowl games. Not good, Bob.
And nobody wants to lose bowl games, but the significance of these bowl games is certainly a debated topic these days, as opposed to, when you first started watching college football, obviously the major bowl games were the major bowl games, but any bowl game, there was a cachet to it. It was, you won a bowl game. And now it's this, he sat out and they sat out. Is it an exhibition? Did it really matter? I hate where the bowl structure has gone, unfortunately.
A lot of the ones recently, we haven't even had guys sit out. You know what I mean? Like that Orange Bowl against Wisconsin, that was full strength, and we were about to run them out of our barn because they couldn't run with us, bro. But hey, it is what it is.
You were running through the quarterback room, and it brought to mind, we often discuss who has been the best Miami starting quarterback since the heydays of 2001, 02.
Mm-hmm.
And we typically come up with, before last season, Brad Kaya was the obvious choice. Stephen Morris had some decent years.
Yep.
Then De'Ara King hits the scene. Boom. And I give him the nod personally over Kaya because of the mobility, mostly.
Okay.
But when you started to run through the prospects of how good they could be, this could be the best quarterback room. And of course, all these guys aren't going to meet their potential. But to your point, just like the Oklahomas that stack these quarterbacks, and Ohio State is, and Georgia, even though they don't necessarily make the right call, have like multiple 4s and 5 stars in the same room. Mm-hmm. It looks like Miami's getting to a point where, hey, he didn't work out. That's fine. We got 3 other dudes.
But that's where you want to be. And like, just like those other teams, I don't think it's that hard, to pick the right player,
they can bring him in.
Georgia's team decided to play an inferior player instead of playing Cam Newton. You got Georgia not playing Justin Fields and not playing what's his name, JT Daniels, until the wheels had come off last season. You know what I mean? It's just like, isn't that hard to like see the better guy be better? Because and I'm not going to be that self-centered where I say it's only myself who's seen such things, because anytime that this happens, there's droves and droves of us on social media like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? I want to get to the place where, we have multiple options. Hopefully one of those guys hits, and then, you go on this. Florida State, don't talk to me about a rebuild, bro. Don't even. Okay? Because number one, your 5-star Travis Hunter is not going to sign with you because you're a toxic program, just like Miami used to be. So enjoy his commitment while it lasts, for one. And for two, when's the next time you're going to beat Miami? I don't see anytime soon. And you're going to stock a whole roster of 3 stars because your coach only recruits 3 stars and a couple of 4 stars. So you're not going to get better through recruiting. You got a guy from UCF who, had a catastrophic leg injury and he's limping around at quarterback. He's going to be the answer. And we got all of these dogs on defense who are running after people and just blowing your brains out. And you can't even block who are you going to beat? Georgia's team, Florida? And the kind of roster that they have, which is similar to the roster that we have? Nope. You're going to beat Clemson anytime in the near future? Nope. And I know that's pot calling the kettle black on that one because we're not going to either. But still, you play them every year. What are you talking about? Miami fans, we've been telling you for a long time because we saw the decline coming because we lived through it, that you had a couple generational players to carry you through and make up for the deficiencies of that program. You said, no, we're going to beat you guys forever and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. While you had Jameis Winston and Dalvin Cook and them 2 dudes were those dudes. And when they left, what happened? Do you have anybody who's going to do anything like that to turn this program around? Absolutely not. Because you said you had Cam Akers and he was going to do everything. Doing great in the league, but what'd you do with him there? You got guys who are just not doing anything. And again, you're not playing guys who give you a chance against teams that are good, like Miami, because the difference between Miami and Florida State last year when we met was the largest that I've ever seen in my lifetime. So when are you guys going to be on anything else, right? Now, has Miami put up some shots and tried some things and failed in the course of rebuilding? Absolutely. Did we maybe hold on to some things too long that weren't working? Absolutely. But miss me with trying to be on a high horse Florida State? Florida State? Get out of here, bro.
Do we know that Travis Hunter is not coming to Florida State, or is that
He's
a hopeful
not.
statement?
He's not. Trust me. That's like when Devontae Jason and Jamar Chase out of high school, they were committed to Kansas as juniors. And when they committed, we said, what? These two monsters from the state of Louisiana on the outside, those two dudes are committed to Kansas football? That ain't going to happen. That's not going to happen. It's not. And you know what? There was a sense of dread with a lot of these 5-stars who committed early to Miami in the past. Some of those guys who decommitted and went elsewhere. Travis Hunter is pimping y'all for the offer that he really wants. Trust and believe. Mark my words. Clip that.
Because Mike Norvell is on a decent little recruiting roll. If the commitments hold.
Yeah, but he got 3-star here, 3-star there. I got an unrated dude here who then got bumped up to a 3-star by 247 because in the recruiting industry, you can't have anybody who's a 3-star or a 2-star unless you're Zion Nelson, who was a 2-star the entire way through because he was committed to App State or something like that. He's getting a little bit of grade inflation for his recruits and things like that, with the one exception of the 5-star. And like I said, I would put good money on the fact that he does not end up at Florida State. And if he does, he's going to go the way of Akeem Dent, where at the end his rating is going to get depressed and then his performance is going to be depressing at Florida State and he'll go somewhere else.
Cam Underwood, State of the U. Please join him and the rest of the crew on over at SB Nation. And, of course, lock it in here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We talk Miami at least once, if not twice, a week live with you. We appreciate the Super Chat contributions and all that you do. Smash the like button. Share the videos on social media. You enjoy the content. You enjoy the conversation. Others will as well. Most likely about 90% of the people that follow you on Twitter and Facebook and other social media platforms have no idea that we're here specifically talking Miami, but overall talking college football every day. So share the videos. We're talking Texas at 8 p.m. and Cam's favorite team, Notre Dame, at 9.
Oh, I hate them so much. Oh, I hate them.
You've got a few that you hate.
I do, unfortunately. But
There's a list.
They're up there for sure.
A few in the Midwest and one closer to home up there on the Panhandle. A couple near the Panhandle, actually. Well, not in the Panhandle, but on the other side of the state. On the Atlantic.
Oh, yeah.
The Gators. Yes.
Yeah, they're just a little bit further north.
All right. Since I don't see any questions right now, I'll be scanning these. This was brought up in the live chat in the previous stream, and I don't think you're going to like my list, Cam, but I'm just being truthful because there are two different ways to look at this. And before I give you my list, the question posed was, what programs across the country are on Miami's level? Okay. And before you start, I would say that there's two ways to look at this. There's just strictly wins and losses, who's winning games, losing games, what are comparable records over the past 2, 3, 4 years. Then there's the other where you bring in the context of Miami has a brand, they have tradition, they have swag, they have popularity. So that enhances the wins and losses, regardless of what they do on the field. There is a certain recognition to the program that other programs do not have. Therefore, they would rate above other programs, even if their record doesn't. So regardless of how you look at it, what programs across the country would you put on Miami's level?
It's a good question. And so I'm going to just do current standing because those are two different lists, historical versus current. So current standing, i.e. roster construction, potential for this upcoming season, a little bit of recent history, but presently on the pecking order. I would say, and to Frank Bibbs' point, 2023 is loaded for recruits in Florida. Holy goodness. If you got to know one name, Brandon Inniss, INNISS, wide receiver. Boy.
You can give us a rundown after your list.
I don't need to say anything else, but INNISS, look it up. Trust me. In terms of programs that are similar or on the same level as Miami right now, first of all, we have to just make the note that there's a level above Miami, at least, if not 2 levels above Miami. So that's going to be your Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, Oklahoma, that kind of tier, those perennial perennial playoff contenders, all the time, or pretty much every year winning their conference, things like that. Am I missing anybody of the super elites? I don't think so. Then you're going to have, I think there's a big gap between that first tier and second tier for me, just because those teams are operating at such a high efficiency rate, and the recruiting and the development, because those teams get everybody. They've been going back and forth between the Acorns and Alabama and Clemson. Well, not Clemson, because they get a lesser number of recruits, but their per player average ranking is very high. But between the Acorns and Alabama, in the last 3 years, they've both had the highest rated recruiting class in the history of recruiting rankings since 2000. So, that talks to their elite talent acquisition. And more often than not, they don't miss on their development. And if they do miss, they got somebody else to step in and take over for it. So who cares? You know what I mean? So you got those teams up there. Georgia would be maybe a slight step below that, just because there's Alabama in their way. So they would be, in that that next little tier. But that's still being 10-2, 10-3 a season, which is what Mark Richt was doing. So just want to throw that out there. And the recruiting is marginally better, but they're locking down more of the top guys in the state of Georgia. But we'll see about that, because the results are still very similar. So for them, there's that. But in the Miami tier, you got to put USC. I think that they're on a similar path, and I know the USC has had some struggles. But again, if you're taking into account some of the ancillary things, private school in a major metropolitan area with a strong history of performance and championships, they do have a strong roster, obviously very talented, a coach who's returning, who has to tweak a couple of things to keep his job. There are storylines on and off the field for USC that are similar to Miami, so I would put them there. If you're talking about last season only, I would say BYU would probably be above Miami, but I don't think that they're going to catch lightning in a bottle with another player like Zach Wilson anytime soon. So that would be below. And then you're looking at some mid-majors, to be perfectly honest, who have just been very strong in their performance. I hate to say it, but a team like a Cincinnati, maybe I don't know that the wheels really came off from last year, but a Penn State is maybe in that tier, but underneath where I would put Miami. Washington, maybe in that same kind of an area. North Carolina, same tier, but I would have to put them at least one spot ahead of Miami because of the carnage that they wreaked against us last year. Texas, probably same tier at the bottom or the next tier down. But I would probably put them in the same tier just because of the brand of the University of Texas, because, hey. A&M would probably be in that same tier, maybe probably above Miami, to be perfectly honest at this point. And I think that that's as much as I have off the top of my head right now with it. So second tier, fourth-ish, give or take.
Your tiers are large. You get large tiers, which there's nothing wrong with. And you put it into context, which there's nothing you stated that I disagree with. But I went strictly with wins and losses.
Okay.
I went strictly like Penn State. To compare Penn State and Miami, Penn State's been playing much better football then again, I'm going like 3 to 4, 5 years out. Of course, they didn't
Okay.
last year. They went 4-5.
Right. Okay.
But I'm looking at like Oklahoma State. They go
Okay.
9-3 pretty much every year. 8-4, 9-3, a few 10-2s. TCU, Stanford, North Carolina, I put on my list.
Okay.
Louisville had the one dip under Petrino at the end, but before that and after that, they're going 8-4, 7-5.
Yeah, but we blew them out 193-12 the last 2 years, so they can be in the tier, but not above us, in my estimation. You know, because even with some of those losses and things, like head-to-head would inform that for me. That, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. But I didn't overplay the North Carolina win because they had a really good year, but that was only 1 year. They went 7-6 the year before. And of course, before that, you could almost say a different program. So you almost can't even count it, but they were awful.
But they beat us 3 out of 4 years, though, even with that going on. Trubisky, and then the last 2.
Okay.
So, like that, also, so yeah, it's not the one. I mean, yeah, but again, if I'm looking right now, I'm going to look like closely in the rearview mirror. But then again, if you extend that out, they've been, probably over the last 9 years, they're probably 6-3, or at least 5-4 against Miami, and then more of those wins coming recently. Like it's not something I take delight in at all. I don't like it. Like, I'm a Miami Hurricane. I'm an alum. Like, everybody knows that. Like I wear my orange and green every time on the show intentionally. If you haven't caught that over the course of many years, guys, and things like that. But the point of fact is they have beaten us more often than not in the last 5 years. So that would inform my tier ranking, even if you're going off of 1 year or 5 years. I think there's more evidence to support that point of North Carolina being over Miami than the opposite, even with them losing these other stupid games, which then would additionally inform the fact that even if they're losing these other stupid games, even if they're going 7-6 or whatever, they still find the time to whoop our ass.
Here's a program that was exceptional for about 5 years, but they've leveled off, and that's Stanford.
Yeah. Oh, and then also I forgot Notre Dame. Because they have been playing very well, with the exception of when we blew them out in 2017, which was awesome.
You're putting Miami on Notre Dame's level.
No. I'm saying I'm putting Notre Dame above Miami.
Okay.
And that's the one that I forgot on the list just because I put them out of my brain.
And here's 2 others that Miami shouldn't be on their level or vice versa. But again, I'm just going by wins and losses. Wake Forest and Arizona State.
Yeah, and I don't think that they are currently, like if I was looking like right now moving forward in like kind of the way that I formulated the list, but if we're informing it in your kind of a way in that 5 to 8 year window and things like that, yeah, they would be on a similar level, which speaks, to their successes and a lot to Miami's failures over the same course of time.
Yeah, not so much to Arizona State's successes because they've been winning for decades, but Wake Forest, yes, they're probably hitting their ceiling, to Dave Clawson's credit.
Yeah, and maybe he likes it in Winston-Salem or whatever, but this would be your exit window, Dave Clawson. Like
you would think,
like 2 years, like last year, this year, and next year, maybe one more. But if you're gonna spin what you've done here somewhere else into a bigger job at a more football-centered school, because look, it's in the triangle, or it's not in the triangle, but it's in the state of North Carolina. Everybody knows that Wake Forest is a basketball school. Randolph Childress, Tim Duncan, all those guys. That's a basketball school. All those schools should be basically basketball schools. And I think it still is, even with Clawson doing very well. So now you can maybe pimp that job into a job at a bigger football school. You know what I mean? That would be, so I think this is the window for that for Dave Clawson, if that's something he desires, or if like Pat Fitzgerald, who played at Northwestern, he went back to Northwestern and he's just a Chicago guy and wants to live in Evanston and work there and everything and just be there and he desires nothing else. Hey, that's fine. But there's a ceiling to that, in terms of performance and potential for that program. And I think that, they're getting right there, Wake Forest.
I looked at the final AP poll versus the preseason poll for the past 20 years, and Northwestern was the one example. This shouldn't be surprising to anyone. Northwestern was the one example of every time that they finished in the top 25, which was typically securely in the top 25. They never were ranked in the preseason top 25.
Yep.
They are always underestimated.
Yeah.
Always.
I mean, it's Northwestern football.
I find it fascinating. I just think, Pat Fitzgerald getting all these 2 and 3 stars and getting them to Big Ten championship games is phenomenal.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the power of development, because you're not having guys who go in there and step in as freshmen. Like, you get every now and then. You had that running back a couple of years ago who had a nice season because his skill set fit really well. You had that quarterback who was the third on the depth chart, and the other 2 guys broke their legs, so he ended up coming in game 4 and things like that. But you're not getting everybody's All-Americans. You're not getting any. I mean, a lot of these guys that we were talking about in the recruiting section, whether it's for Miami or guys who end up going elsewhere, your super premium recruits, you're not getting any of those guys. You're not getting those guys from the Chicagoland area. You're not going into Milwaukee or Detroit or into Indiana or Ohio. You're not getting any of those guys to Northwestern. You're just not. And you can spin it the academic way like Stanford of, oh, well, those guys couldn't get into Northwestern and everything like that. I understand. It's a tough school to get into. But you're not getting those guys, even those guys who have that academic ability, those guys who are going to Michigan or going to Stanford or going to Notre Dame. You're not getting those guys, So it's going to take you 3, 4, and 5 years out until those recruits develop to the point where they can hit the field and be successful. But, under the coaching and tutelage of Pat Fitzgerald, they've done that consistently. And it's and they continue to change a little bit what they do and how they do it based upon the guys they have on the roster. And it's really impressive, the job that he's done and that he's built there at Northwestern. So, good on him. But, I think that Miami is in a different situation.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. Cam Underwood, State of the U. And we appreciate everybody jumping on the line. I'm trying to determine. I thought with all those comments coming in, somebody would have some kind of question or comment that would spark some conversation. So we are only 3 practices into this deal.
Yep.
With 12 to go.
Yep.
And then we're going to see a spring game on the ACC network, I believe.
Yeah, that was announced today that the spring game is going to be held at Hard Rock Stadium and televised on ACC Network. I think it's April the 17th at 11 a.m., if memory serves me correctly. So you can set your DVRs for that now. The plan is probably not to have fans in attendance for that game, just based on the way that things are trending as per Manny Diaz. And I think that that's probably the smart idea for things. So, just you get back into the big stadium, for that. Obviously, the spring game, the last couple of years, you had one at Traz Powell, which is a legendary high school field in Miami, that any of the high school players from Miami who've gone in anywhere else, they've played legendary games at Traz Powell Stadium. It is, if you've never been there for a game, drive down to, Miami-Dade campus, the North Campus in Opelika. They have food trucks out there. It's a great environment. The whole neighborhood comes out for these games, whether it's Carroll City, Miami Central, Miami Northwestern, teams from the South who those players usually play at like Harris Field or other fields. They want to come up and play there as well, and they get a chance to do that sometimes. So Traz Powell is a great stadium, but it is a high school stadium. So we had a scrimmage there and then one in Orlando a couple of years ago. We had the inability to get into Hard Rock Stadium for a thing because of a U2 concert a couple of years ago in the spring that was, obviously previously scheduled for their thing, their tour. But yeah, it's good to, have the team back there in the big stadium to do things like that, because that's what, a program like Miami should be doing. And there are benefits to, having the grassroots thing of having one scrimmage at Traz Powell and another one in Orlando. So you're increasing the geographic reach and you're going back to a legendary high school stadium, but it's a high school stadium, so you're going to have that and everything. And I'm really just excited to see how players continue to separate themselves as we move through the spring. Like I said, we're 1 practice in pads only so far. So we have the 2 to get your body acclimated before you put the pads on today. And just really see how guys are working, man. Tyreek Stevenson's been getting a lot of praise, the transfer in from Georgia, again, because he's a guy from South Florida who got away, went to Georgia as an elite recruit. to just back up that previous conversation of how they're doing and playing and recruiting with the Bulldogs and things like that. So he's doing really well. My guy, Keyshawn Smith, at wide receiver, is making big strides. He was the second wide receiver to speak to the media this year. Third, because the transfers spoke. So Charleston Rambo did speak to the media after he transferred him, DeAndre Johnson, and Tyreek Stevenson. But in the spring, you had Mike Harley as the first wide receiver up to speak to the media, and the second up was Keyshawn Smith. He's back rocking the number 5 because we know N'Kosi Perry is moving on elsewhere, eventually to transfer out. So Keyshawn Smith goes back to his high school number, and hey, that's a guy who I thought should have played more as a true freshman. So now that he's a super true freshman or whatever they're calling it, because everybody stays at their same classification this year. So you have your super freshman and your true, I don't even know, but he has a super freshman this year. I think that he can take a big step forward. So I'm very excited for him. Don Chaney Jr. At running back with all the rest of the guys. Tyler Van Dyke stepping into the number 1 quarterback role with De'Aaron King out. Jake Garcia also stepping in to hopefully, battle to give a preview for next year's quarterback competition between Van Dyke and Garcia, which I think could be a very heated competition. And then, hey, don't forget about Peyton Matoka because apparently he's stepping up a little bit, and everything. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I just want to see everybody. I'm rooting for everybody to be great. I want Amari Carter to maybe slot in a little bit more at a flex linebacker on a sub package, things like that. Avante Williams making his triumphant return after missing last season, looking like one of, if not the best defensive players on the team. He's rocking the number 15 jersey this year, so back to the number that he wore in the Under Armour All-American game. And if you've been keeping track of score at home, the last 2 people to wear number 15 on defense for Miami were Gregory Rousseau and Jalen Phillips. So there's an incredible recent history of players wearing that number, and that should not be overlooked as Avante Williams is wearing that. You got James Williams, who's not on campus yet, but he's going to be a player to step in. Leonard Taylor, not on campus yet, but he's going to be a player to step in, hopefully and earn rotation snaps and things like that. Nessus Silvera trying to take another step forward. I already spoke about Corey Flagg. I want to see something from Avery Huff and Sam Brooks, hopefully the more athletic linebackers as well, making strides forward. And just guys slotting in where they should be. So Tyreek Stevenson alongside either Al Blades or probably Al Blades Jr., starting on the outside. He moved to Corey Couch into the inside for a slot corner, which is where he fits perfectly. And he's only 5'8.5", 5'9". So that's really where he should be playing as opposed to the outside. So you have guys fitting their actual roles, I think, a little bit better. That's really what I want to see happen. And just everybody take a solid step forward across the board. And then no injuries, because obviously we want to have no more injuries to contend with and things like that. And if somebody does get an injury, hopefully it's not catastrophic. And if it's something that's going to linger, shut them down immediately. Don't try to come back early. Don't don't just be a kid and be like, oh, well, I want to play, and so I'm going to rush back early, where the thing would be take the time, get your body right so that you're fully able to utilize your incredible athletic gifts further in the future. So that's kind of just the quick run around for, what's going on in the spring and what I'm looking forward to. So, there's a lot, but, we have 12 more practices upcoming, a couple scrimmages in the spring game as well. So looking forward to that.
Kim, you grouped together the 3 transfers. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't want to overplay these guys as stars, but they're all 3 substantial talents that were big contributors on their previous teams, and they all played for 3 major schools.
Correct. And I mean, Miami's, we're not volume shooting with the transfer portal the way that we did in the past, but really selecting to fill in holes in the roster and guys who can come in and play. So, DeAndre Johnson and Tyreek Stevenson both played at Southridge. They went to Tennessee and Georgia, respectively. Then you got those guys coming in here. DeAndre Johnson, I don't think that he's on the caliber of a Jalen Phillips, but he should be a top of the rotation kind of a guy. Tyreek Stevenson should be a breakout superstar and starting cornerback. Like, I don't think there's any question he's going to start at one corner. Like, set it and forget it. He should be out there. And don't rotate your goddamn secondary as much. Play your best guys. Like, rotate your guys in the spring, Manny Diaz. Like, stop rotating during games because nobody else does that. Shout out to JP. We were having that conversation the other day. And then Charleston Rambo, he struggled to become the number 1 receiver at Oklahoma when they have all kinds of quarterbacks and receivers, but he was a solid number 2. When you come into the Miami situation, that at least puts you as 1A next to Mike Harley, You know what I mean? So that's going to be top of the rotation, top of the roster kind of a guy. So yeah, all these guys, they're not coming in to sit. It's not going to be a Tommy Kennedy situation, the All-American FCS tackle from Butler who came in here and then basically was just out of his depth and couldn't find his way onto the field at all. All three of these guys, Rambo, Johnson, and Stevenson, are going to play. They're going to play a lot of snaps, and I think that's going to be a good thing for Miami.
Even though the question came in, I can't imagine that there's been any word on De'Ara King.
Oh, ho, ho, au contraire, mon frère. There has been. De'Ara King is smashing every benchmark in his recovery, according verbatim to Manny Diaz. He's doing great in his recovery. He's ahead of schedule and everything. He just seems to be Wolverine-like in his ability to just regenerate and recover. So yeah, he's ahead of schedule and everything. So we're fully expecting him to be ready, probably for the opener even against Alabama. Now, whether we play him or not, we'll see. But I would struggle to see De'Ara King being on the roster for that game and available, and then like taking a DNP CD, like a did not play coach's decision. I don't think that would happen. But no, he's doing great. Continues every day to get better and stronger. He's not running around yet, but he is walking and everything. And he's at practice, and he's doing a lot of the signaling of plays, which then just speaks again to his mental connection to the playbook and his understanding of things. So he's in there, and he's next to the coaches on the sideline, signaling plays, helping coach a little bit after his rehab sessions to, give the tips and tricks and pointers to Tyler Van Dyke and Peyton Matoka and Jake Garcia at the quarterback position, so they can see what he sees. Because obviously, and I've said this before and I'm saying it again, De'Ara King is one of the handful best quarterbacks in college returning. He just is. Not draft prospects, but operators at the college level. He's one of the 5 best. I defy you to find 5 more better quarterbacks than De'Ara King at this level who are returning. You won't do it. You can't do it. There are not 5 that are better. I guarantee you. So if he has that knowledge and performance to put him in that kind of a level, he can see what to do on the field. And then he's using, again, in that Bob Shoop kind of a way, tying this to the early conversation, that bag of tricks, that knowledge and wisdom from game experience, okay? Because when I was at Houston, we played against Texas, we played against Oklahoma, we played against these guys. They would do these kind of things. I played in all these games last year, here at Miami as well. So if you're talking about all these high-level, opponents that we had, all those kind of things, he can do that, have that knowledge, and then transmit it to the next group of guys. And that's the thing that I think we see more at the college level than the pro level, because yes, the guys on the roster want to take De'Ara King's job, but that job is not available to be taken until De'Ara King leaves. So it's different than Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, because we're both signing professionals, and I want your job now to get you out of here, whereas the job will be available when I leave and graduate. So I want you to be better at it, and I will give you that coaching and hopefully peer-to-peer development so that when I leave, you can step up.
Cam Underwood, State of the U. If you missed any of the analysis because you came in a little bit late, this video will post in about 15 minutes, so head on back and catch what you missed. Cam, it's always a pleasure. Always appreciate what you do here. Hope everyone else does as well. Head on over to State of the U. They'll have spring practice coverage day to day today.
Yeah, we got a lot of good things going on over there at State of the U. Baseball team is ranked top 10. The basketball season is mercifully over because we lost more games to injury than any team in America this year, and that was tough. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well over there. And then there was also the women's basketball season that we've talked about as well. So lots of Miami Hurricane stuff. And then hopefully, if and when this recruiting dead period lifts, we'll have even more recruiting coverage. But we have a couple of things and tips and tricks there, pieces and content about recruiting as well. So come mess with us, come fan with us over at stateoftheu.com, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at the State of the U. And my personal Twitter, if you've not found it before, is Underwood Sports. And it is Thursday night, and I believe that there is reality TV that I will be tweeting about, which you'll enjoy. So come check it out.
And get yourself a mask. voiceofcollegefootball.com. You get a Miami mask, Florida State, whoever you want, and join us for some Texas talk right now. Thanks, Cam. Have a good weekend.
All right, you guys too. We'll see you.